So it has come to my attention that hardly anyone knows what stratagems are, so I'm going to make a video to inform the dummies out there because ain't nobody trying to read all that. So if you're on lunch or about to go on a drive, relax and let me explain how they work. Roll the intro. I don't have one. So to start off, at the beginning of KVK, you have these things called folios, and that is pretty much just what the type of stratagems you are allowed to use, and I'll explain what stratagems are in a bit, just follow along. So at first, everyone starts off with the same beginner folios, and as the Chronicles or KVK continue on, bigger folios get unlocked for everyone to use. In these folios, you get to choose 4 categories of stratagems, and those categories are Leadership, Warfare, Support, and then Universal. Leadership is the red one, and what those do is they give you combat-related buffs. For example, Rousing Drums gives each of your marches the ability to reduce your damage taken by 10% for 5 seconds every time they get buffed by another march on the field. And then there will be a cooldown of 10 seconds each time it happens, so William is perfect for that, and especially Mulan. And then the next stratagem category, which is Warfare, and it's the color purple. These actually buff your leadership category, and to make it easier, when you choose your leadership stratagem, the game will recommend you the Warfare stratagem in which it is meant for. For example, if you had chosen Rousing Drums, then you are recommended Rhythm of War, and what that does is it increases the time that your troops take 10% less damage. So what used to be 5 seconds then turns into 7 seconds because of the Warfare stratagem that you had chosen. Next is the Support category, which is the green category, and what these do is they improve the quality of life for combat for your account during the duration of this KVK, and I love these so much. This is a free-to-play player's wet dream. This will give you buffs such as being able to reinforce a rally with 2 marches instead of 1, when previously kingdoms had to kick players out of rallies to make space for fresh marches. This will cut that issue in half, hopefully. Kind-Hearted increases the hospital capacity by 30%. Makeshift Splints decreases healing costs by 10%, which is my go-to because I am the worst farmer in the history of mankind. Triage causes you to take 8% less severely wounded, and instead they become slightly wounded. So less healing costs and less severely wounds. Accolades will give you 3 million resources per day for wounding or killing someone else's troops, so that's okay, I guess. Overtime pay gives you an extra Bastion quest a day, so that's somewhat cool, I think. If you're free to play, I think that's more of an impact, so maybe it's better than I'm giving it credit. The Stratagem Resourceful will give you up to 1 million crystals total in 1 KVK for gathering resources. 1 million crystals is nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it's free for something you're already going to be doing anyways, so why not? And then the Universal category, which is the blue category, lets you use any stratagem of any category, so that you can double down or triple down on a certain category. It just depends on what you're wanting to do and what your role is in the kingdom. I should note that you can switch folios and stratagems for free once every 70 hours. If not, you can use stratagem points to change them, and you can get that currency from doing Bastion quests. In this KVK, you don't really get skills from other commanders. You can get your basic favor from Bastions and crystals like normal. And each mission offers a certain amount of stratagem points. So that's the basis of what stratagems and folios are. Now we're going on to what these stratagems do, because each one does something different, and I know that 90% of you are not going to want to read each one, so I'll go into it for you. So starting off with the leadership category, we have Decisive Battle, and what this does is when a rally or a garrison is in combat, they both deal 1% extra damage to each other up to 100%. And the only time I see this being used is when a past garrison is taking too long and this needs to get rushed, or if you know that your rally or garrison is going to do more damage than the other. For example, if the garrison has like a Heraclius and your rally has like a Nevsky or a Justinian, you know that the Nevsky and Justinian are dealing a crazy amount of damage through attack and active skills. That's the time that I think the stratagem will be used wisely. And the warfare stratagem that buffs that one is battle tested. And what it does is it decreases the time it takes to stack damage from once every 20 seconds to once every 5 seconds. So that will greatly increase the damage from both sides a lot quicker. Then we have City Bane, and what that does is it randomly gives you one of 2 things, either 5% damage for 5 seconds, or from what I understand that when this triggers, the durability for the flag or the fortress that you're rallying against will suffer a drop in its durability by whatever you lost the last round divided by 10,000. I get that it sounds confusing, but how I understand it, so every second there is 1 round, being 1 attack. So if the garrison made your rally lose 20,000 in white numbers in 1 second, being 1 attack, then divided by 10,000, the durability will decrease by 2, since 20,000 divided by 10,000 is 2. Hopefully that's a little bit more understandable. And the max durability can drop is 10, and for 5 seconds the durability keeps dropping depending on how many troops you are losing per second. And I would imagine that if you got hit with an active skill and lost like 100,000, then the garrison loses 10 durability points if this stratagem is currently active. Now it doesn't say anything about a cooldown, so I don't know if after those 5 seconds are done, if it starts again on either having 5% damage or the durability decrease, but it's definitely scary. And the warfare stratagem for this one is Siege Engines, and that drops the durability also by 1 point every time the durability drops. So if your stratagem makes them lose durability for 5 seconds, the Siege Engines would trigger each of those 5 seconds, making it 5 extra durability lost total. Next, in the leadership category, you have one-on-one, and what that does is it prevents you and the enemy that you're fighting from benefiting from normal buffs, which are attack, defense, health, and healing effects from other troops. And its warfare stratagem is Standing Alone, and that offers you 10% attack to your troops when you're not benefiting from a normal buff. So if you're running a William or a Mulan, these stratagems are not meant for you. And if there are other commanders that offer other troops normal buffs, then I apologize for not mentioning them. Moving on, we have Surprise Strike, and this one is nasty in big kingdoms and any kingdom in general that has swarmers. And what it does is when you deal a single target skill damage, for example like Tariq and Nevsky, then it deals an extra 100 damage factor, and not only that, but it deals 100 damage factor for every army that is surrounding the target up to 700. So when my Tariq does an active skill of 2,500, if the garrison is swarmed by 6 others, then Tariq is doing a total of 3,200 damage factor. And there is a cooldown of 20 seconds, and it isn't only for garrison and rallies, this is a universal thing. And also, not to mention, just for Justinian, his active skill has a feature that even if the target is not being surrounded, it acts as if it is surrounded by 3, making it a guaranteed extra 300 damage factor, and there is a cooldown of 20 seconds. And exiting battle does not restart this, by the way. Next, I'm moving on to another leadership stratagem, and I'll get into the warfare stratagems for these two. The next one is Fierce Assault, and what that does is when your troops deal skill damage, the target suffers an extra 100 damage factor. So AoE would be favorable for this, especially for YSG or Zuji. And then there is a cooldown of 20 seconds, and again, exiting battle does not reset this. And with both this stratagem and the last one, which the names are Fierce Assault and Surprise Strike, all your troops can benefit from it, and each one has their own cooldown and stuff like that. Just keep in mind that Surprise Strike is specifically for single target damage, and Fierce Assault can either be single target or AoE. Now there are 2 stratagems that benefit those two, and we'll start with the first one, which is Proven Valor. And what that does is instead of having a cooldown of 20 seconds, it drops them to a cooldown of 10 seconds. Then what Blood in the Water does is if you defeat an enemy target, then the cooldown is reset and ready to fire again. So what you can do is choose Strategist Folio or either of the last 2 folios available to double down on both stratagems with both warfare stratagems as well. Then you have Rousing Drums, and with that one, if your troops get a normal buff from other troops, then the march that had gotten buffed also takes a damage reduction benefit of 10% for 5 seconds. And your troops can get this benefit every 10 seconds, and the warfare stratagem paired with this is Rhythm of War, and it makes the effect last for 7 seconds instead of 5 seconds. Just be careful that it appears that this can be countered by the stratagem one-on-one, and neither party gets buffed, but that enemy does get 10% extra attack if they also have Standing Alone equipped, which they definitely will. Then we have Close Ranks, and this is for the Swarmers. When the enemy has 300% more troops than you, and you are in combat with them, then you start to take 1% less severely wounded for each army surrounding that target up to 5 armies, or a 10% reduction, and those numbers might not make sense, but it will in a bit. If the limit is 5, how can the cap also be 10%? The partnered warfare stratagem for this one is called Not One Step Back, and it makes it so that each extra march surrounding the target equals to a 1.5% reduction instead of 1% if you have less than 60% of units remaining, which is not that great, but whatever. And you might be asking yourself, stupid War Koopa, if it's 1.5% at a cap of 5 surrounding troops, then that maxes out at 7.5%. How do I get it to 10%? Well, I'm here to tell you that I have no idea. And then last, but definitely not least, for the leadership stratagems, we have Martial Talent. This is my favorite one. You equip this relic as an accessory to a commander you want as a secondary commander, and that commander will change to whatever troop type you want it to be. So I chose infantry and I gave it to Zuji, and I paired Scipio with Zuji for ruins, and it was beautiful. I'll show you all the results in another video for that. And then the recommended stratagem for that one is Inspired, and what it does is it gives 5% extra damage if it's on the map, so this is not for garrisons. That was it for leadership. Now we're going to do the rest of the warfare category without a partnered leadership stratagem, starting off with Bloody Bravery. It gives whichever march you have that's under 20% an extra 5% damage. Don't use it, not worth it. Then you have Formidable Force, offering rallies and garrisons a 10% chance to deal 500 direct damage factor with an easy cooldown of 5 seconds. This one is amazing. I believe it's a must-have. And then you have Invictus, and what that does is when one of your troops defeats an enemy camp march, your march gets 10% extra skill damage for 20 seconds, and leaving combat does not make the buff go away. There is also no cooldown for this, and this one is just okay. I think there are better stratagems to choose rather than this one, in my opinion. Annihilation gives you 10% extra attack for 10 seconds for whichever army that deals skill damage to 3 targets at the same time. There's also no cooldown for this one. This one is okay as well. Common Foe is pretty cool, and if your army buffs another march, then you get a shield of 700 for 5 seconds with a cooldown of 10 seconds. So perfect for William and Mulan. I actually really like that one if there is a good chance that your army is going to be buffing others. And then boom, this answers the question of when y'all thought I was stupid. The last warfare stratagem is Beatdown. Now the wording is very confusing for me, but I believe it buffs the leadership stratagems that have the requirement of the target being surrounded, and then brings the cap of the surrounding troops higher by 2 more. So when close ranks hit the cap of 7.5% of less sev wounds, this brings the cap of surrounding troops from 5 to 7. Then that's how you get 10.5%, but the cap is 10%, so now it makes sense. It should be recommended for those, but whatever. I'm glad that I finally got my answer. Now for the support category, I'll quickly go over the ones that I had skipped before since I had already gone over some, not knowing this is how I was going to present my video. So Dog Eat Dog makes the rally or garrison deal more damage to lower tier troops. So what a T5 would do to a T4 and other KVKs, if this stratagem is equipped, then more damage will be done to those lower tier troops. This pushes the idea of reinforcing with T5 instead. One Heart, One Mind gives your field troops 3% extra damage, and if you join a garrison or a rally, your troops will give the captain 1% bonus damage, and you can do that up to 5 times, so that's pretty cool. I don't know if the cap is 5% damage total, or if for each person it's 5%. Hopefully someone answers that in the comments, I really want to know. Overtime Pay gives you 1 extra Bastion quest a day. I would imagine the other support stratagems also tell you the benefits that you have received as well. You can see what triage and makeshift splints have done for me. And I forgot to mention that Breakneck is a warfare stratagem that offers 10% march speed. I use infantry, so that is something that I needed. This video took me a fat minute to make, and I hope it helped you guys out a lot, so I will ask for a sub and a like on this one. That's the end of the video. Later. Who put that there?